In the year 1235, in a time of fear and superstition, young women accused of witchcraft were captured and condemned to die before the eyes of the gathered townsfolk. A solemn priest, clutching the ancient Book of Solomon, proclaimed their fates according to the sacred texts. Some women, guilty only of simple folk magic, wept and confessed their sins. But among them was one woman with a clouded eye who defied the priest, cursing him to the fires of hell. Unmoved, the priest ordered their deaths by hanging. The three women were strung up on a bridge, their bodies left to dangle before being dropped into the river below. As the soldiers prepared to leave, one of them argued that the witches were surely dead, and there was no need for further ceremony. The priest, however, reminded them that the Book of Solomon demanded the rites be completed to prevent any dark spirit from returning. Left alone, the priest returned that night to perform the sacred prayers over the bodies. Yet as he spoke the holy words, he noticed one of the drowned women twitched unnaturally. When he tried to haul the final corpse from the river, it pulled him in with supernatural strength. Terrified, the priest scrambled back toward the bridge, but he was too late. From the black waters rose the one-eyed witch, still clinging to life by the force of her rage. With unnatural power, she burned the priest's sacred Book of Solomon and delivered a grim vengeance, ending the priest's life. Nearly a century later, in 1332, during the height of the Crusades, armies gathered at the Gulf of Edremit. Among them were two renowned knights, Behmen and his loyal friend Felson. For years they fought side by side, believing they served a righteous cause, purging the enemies of their faith without question. In 1344 AD, during the siege of Smyrna, Behmen charged through the mist and, in the confusion, struck down a woman who posed no threat. As the fog lifted, the knights realized with horror they had slaughtered a defenseless city. The next day, Behmen confronted a church envoy, demanding to know how such an atrocity could be justified. When the envoy claimed divine will, Behmen declared he would no longer serve the church. Turning their backs on the Crusades, Behmen and Felson deserted. Months later, they journeyed through the outskirts of Styria. Stumbling upon a house, they discovered a dead couple inside, their bodies ravaged by disease. Fearing contagion, they burned the house to the ground and pressed onward until reaching a nearby town plagued by crows and death. Inside the city, the knights learned from a soldier named Johann that the plague was sweeping the land without mercy. While bartering for supplies, a boy helping Behmen accidentally revealed the knight's sword bearing a crusader emblem. Recognized as deserters, Behmen and Felson were quickly surrounded and forced to surrender. Before they could be imprisoned, a priest named Debelzak intervened. He inspected Behmen's sword and led them to a dying church bishop, who begged their help. According to the bishop, the plague was not natural, but a curse unleashed by a captured witch. This witch, Debelzak claimed, must be taken to the distant monastery of Severak, where the last surviving copy of the Book of Solomon could be used to destroy her. Skeptical but faced with little choice, the knights agreed to escort the girl. They were joined by Johann and a local guide named Hagamar, who was promised freedom if he led them safely to Severak. The witch, heavily sedated, was placed in a caged cart, and their grim journey began. During the trek, doubts grew. Johann questioned the priest's certainty about the girl's guilt, pointing out that plague had struck towns she had never visited, and this planted seeds of mistrust among the group. The knights converse, and Felson alerts Behmen that they are being followed, so they prepare an ambush. A young man named Kay, an aspiring knight, appeared and begged to join their mission. Despite initial hostility, Behmen eventually allowed him to prove himself and accompany them. At night they take turns watching her. The first watch is Johann's, but soon the priest comes to replace him. Johann is leaving when the crying witch tricks him to come to the cart, but when he approaches the cart, the woman pulls him towards her, and when the priest goes to help him, she takes his cross and stabs him in the hand. The others run to them, but upon arriving, find that the young woman has escaped. They run to a nearby village to find her and see a woman running. In an attempt to recapture her, Johann became separated, lured by hallucinations of his dead daughter. In his confusion, he is fatally stabbed by Kay. The group subdued the witch and held a somber funeral for Johann. The group continues their journey, and they come across a decaying bridge. Courageously, Behmen manages to cross, and then asks the others to cross first with the horses. After that, they prepare to cross the cart with the witch inside, and almost fall into the abyss. While doing so, Kay is left hanging, but he cannot hold on to the ropes and lets go. Fortunately for him, the young witch catches him by the arm with a strength not normal for a young woman. Minutes later, everyone manages to cross safely. Finally, they reach the entrance of the forest. Deeper in the forest, they faced an unnatural wolf attack. The beasts were more monstrous than ordinary wolves, suggesting that darker forces hunted them. Hagamar was killed during the assault, and the survivors barely escaped. At last, they reached the monastery. To their horror, they found it abandoned, the monks dead or dying from the plague. One monk, on the verge of death, revealed that they had been copying the sacred texts in hopes of preserving them against the rising darkness. de Balzac found the Book of Solomon and prepared to perform the ritual. But when the priest began the exorcism, the girl transformed before their eyes into a demonic being, revealing her true nature. She had not been a mere witch but a demon in disguise, manipulating them to reach the monastery and destroy the book. Using her power, the demon burns the cart and melts the metal, freeing herself afterward. The evil follows towards the priest to stop him, and the knights cannot stop the enemy. The priest burns the demon with holy water and continues the ritual, but the creature, having wings, flies to another dark part of the monastery. The group then tries to regroup and prepare an attack plan. The four begin the search for the demon. Behmen goes ahead and uses torches to light the way and observe what the plague has caused to the monks. Unbeknownst to them, a dark being enters the body of one of the dead monks. At last, Behmen realizes that the demon wants the book, which is why it made the young woman pose as a witch, knowing that she would be taken to those who had the wisdom of Solomon. The voice of the demon echoes in the library of the chapel, and everyone goes to where it is, and when the priest begins the exorcism, it throws objects at the group and then burns the copies of the book. When the knights rise, they realize that the bodies of the monks have disappeared. Soon, they begin to emerge from the darkness, wanting to kill the priest, for his words can weaken the infernal being. They discover that the monks are now under the dominion of evil. As the possessed monks attacked, the knights fought valiantly to protect the priest. Despite their efforts, Felsen was mortally wounded, and de Balzac was killed before he could finish the ritual. Behmen and Kay battled the demon alone, realizing that if it seized the book, darkness would spread unchecked. In a final act of bravery, Behmen pinned the demon, allowing Kay to complete the sacred words. The demon's body ignited in holy fire, and the evil was finally banished. However, Behmen's wounds were fatal. With his last breath, he made Kay promise to protect the girl they had saved. In the aftermath, Kay and the girl, now revealed to be named Anna, laid the knights and priest to rest. Carrying the last copy of the Book of Solomon, they rode together toward an uncertain future, determined to preserve the sacred wisdom and guard the world against the return of evil.